Oh, hello, everyone. It is I, Ethan, the Dark King. Today, I found a very interesting video. It's called Kingdom Hearts 4, a series with an identity crisis. It was made by the YouTuber called Quik Reviews. So today, we're going to be taking a quick look at it, we're just gonna take the basic look at it, the usual. And yeah, have some fun. Disclaimer. I will be using this whole video, but it's only because it's very short, and I will be adding commentary to it basically. This is protected under copyright law since I will be adding my own commentary to it, which will make it transformative. Commentary is a form of fair use, basically. So, no copyright bullshit. Also, no harassment or bullying. Please.
See, I was just a teen when I was first introduced into the Kingdom Hearts series. My very first game was Kingdom Hearts 2. Yeah, the combat in 2 just drew me in, and I only played Kingdom Hearts 1 after finishing the second. So I was the one feeling personally attached to Roxas, and didn't even feel a little joy when I was forced to switch to Sora. Since playing those two magical titles, I fell off with the series after that point. The monumental wait for Kingdom Hearts 3 didn't do it any favors for keeping me engaged, and with every Kingdom Hearts title since 2 being released on some sort of portable device, my love for the series fell by the wayside. Now, when I picked up Kingdom Hearts 3 practically 14 years after originally playing KH2, I was still invested in the story. Sure, my love for the series wasn't where it used to be, but I was excited to see how the story of Sora, Terra, Ventus, and Aqua would unfold. I had no idea that it would turn into the Roxas, Xion, Axel redemption arc.
So we start off with basically a personal story of how Quik Reviews was introduced into Kingdom Hearts. Now, that on its own is not a bad thing. That being said, we'll see how that's used to the video's advantage later. Anyways, he talks about Kingdom Hearts 1 and playing Kingdom Hearts... he talks about playing Kingdom Hearts 2 first, then talks about Kingdom Hearts 1, and then mentions Free a bit onwards. Alright? He doesn't really mention the other games, anyways. And he points out, weirdly enough, that the other games were on portable devices. Don't really know what you're supposed to think about that, but it's whatever. Let's continue.
First of all, being in development for 14-ish years, that's always a red flag for a video game. Then again, with Tetsuya Nomura at the helm, it's a miracle he didn't turn Kingdom Hearts into Kingdom Hearts the Musical. That's not to mention the changes to the combat, which I was not a fan of. Nor did I like where the story turned, especially considering that they had been building the story up for literal decades, and for it to end the way it did was straight up disappointing. The Disney worlds were weak as hell in comparison to previous games, with Sora feeling like he was put into these worlds as a complete afterthought, rather than being a real part of each and every one of them.
I think I made the perfect analogy for this in my previous video, so just take a listen.
Just notice how Sora's just kind of there. He doesn't really feel like he belongs in the worlds at all in this game, and half the time it's almost like he's that annoying friend you don't have the heart to tell to go away, so he just tags along.
Again, I could go on, but for these reasons and more, I stopped being interested in Kingdom Hearts. Still though, at least you could still call Kingdom Hearts 3 a Kingdom Hearts game. A weak one, but still Kingdom Hearts nonetheless. If you enjoyed KH1 and KH2, there were still things to enjoy about KH3. The charming cartoony style is still there, with Sora's appearance changing based on what world he's in. You've still got your classic Disney characters in their classic Disney worlds, going about their lives with Sora and crew getting an inside look. The foundation is there at least.
Okay, one small correction. KH3 was in development for 14, was not in development for 14 years. It was only in development for 6 years. From 2013, along with the reveal trailer from E3, and was initially released on PS4 during 2019. Might want to get your facts checked. Now, a game being in long development isn't necessarily a red flag. Many games like Breath of the Wild or Elden Ring were in long development before they came out, but for the most part, they still were pretty good games, well, with a pretty good, if not well-written story. To be fair, he is correct on Sora not really doing much in the Disney worlds and feeling like a stranger that's just there because no one was willing to tell him to fuck off. So yeah, that's pretty correct. Now, this is where the video takes a turn for the worse. This is where shit hits the fan, and this is where the bodies hit the pavement. Alright, let's continue.
Worlds, going about their lives with Sora and crew getting an inside look. The foundation is there at least. Now, with this trailer for Kingdom Hearts 4, honestly, what in the hell is this? Sora looks like a TikTok e-boy now. What's going on here? Where are his comically large shoes? That shit was a trademark of his design, and in all seriousness, it was charming as hell. It really fit in with the aesthetic of Kingdom Hearts. This was a cartoony video game, one that was mainly goofy in nature. But with serious undertones sprinkled throughout. Now with KH4, it feels like Kingdom Hearts has completely lost its identity and traded it out for some soulless, bland, generic, drab Final Fantasy XVII-esque aesthetic. Scripted gameplay with a UI over it? Check. Random characters speaking absolute nonsense to try and make it look at least like this game still has some semblance of a story in mind? Check. Sora looking like he could pull out his iPhone at any moment and start doing the renegade? Check. Like, guys, come on. You want to know what my first thoughts were with this trailer? I immediately thought, I've seen this all before. Remember the Final Fantasy XV?
Okay, so one, obviously insulting Sora because he looks a little bit different and more like an actual human than the cartoony character he is, isn't really a criticism, especially since he doesn't actually explain why this is bad. He just makes fun of Sora because, fuck it, why not? TikTokers, am I right? Fuck. And also, he's making this observation, which, to be fair, is a fair observation to make due to one trailer. Even though it's been confirmed already that the game won't entirely take place in that one town. Also, please tell me, how the hell do these normal random buildings look anything like anything in fucking Midgard? Like, Final Fantasy VII Midgard looks way darker, way more different, and way cooler than this, basically. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? You don't even compare the two. You just say it looks like it. Trailers. He mentions they have scripted shit, but honestly, I'm not gonna even talk about that. Because, yeah, it's a mixed bag. And honestly, it doesn't add anything to the video. Also, he says that they're saying nonsense when the dude in the trailer clip that he showed literally is just saying, just because you leave the current world that you're in doesn't mean you can get back to the original world you came from. Unless you're fucking stupid, that's not complicated to understand. And also more insults to Sora because why not? Fuck it, you just gotta roast Sora.
Exactly like that. And what did we find out about that trailer later on? The gameplay within it was completely CGI. And I freaking hate how Nomura always loves to throw a UI over these clearly scripted sequences to try and pass it off as gameplay. I'm sick and tired of it. I understand he wants to make the game he never got to make, That being Final Fantasy 13 Versus, I get that. But the dude clearly does not know how to execute that idea within the confines of a video game. Else, he would have done it several years ago. Hell, I'm concerned as to whether he can even pull off something that isn't a convoluted mess. Anyone want to talk about Final Fantasy Origin? Now, I really can't speak too much about it, as I wouldn't touch that game with a 10-foot pole, but I think this cutscene speaks for itself.
Bullshit.
Hey, at least the gameplay looks solid. If it's one thing Nomura knows how to do, it's action combat. I'll give him that. I enjoyed the combat within 7 Remake, I enjoyed the combat within Kingdom Hearts, and even the combat within Origin looks satisfying enough. But one thing I will never trust him with is a game's story. Origin's story looks like utter garbage. Kingdom Hearts' story is utter trailer trash.
I'm confused. Did he say he made a copy of the real world?
Only one of the worlds is real, and the other is just really convincing.
You can't be serious.
And let's be honest, so is Final Fantasy VII Remakes. Maybe I'm overreacting to this and the trailer just takes place during one section of the game where Sora's in the real world, but for some reason, I just have a feeling that Disney worlds will not be the main focus here, and the majority of the game's storyline will take place within this dreary, bland real world that Nomura seems to be so fond of nowadays. You could make the argument that the Disney worlds were always just a sideshow to the main story, but I would absolutely disagree. The main story was always the sideshow for me as a kid. The Disney worlds were always what I was there for, helping Simba out with any trouble that might be brewing within Pride Rock, or helping Mulan and Mushu against the Huns. It was never about whatever this is. Both Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy were always about being just that, fantasies. These wildly creative worlds with cartoony characters that are meant to whisk you away and forget about all your real-world problems, not bring you back to them. I don't want to think about my car insurance payment when I see a big Heartless throw a real-life car towards Sora, okay? Just look at...
How the fuck are those two completely different trailers the fucking same? How are they the same at all? You just slap the two on and say that they look fucking similar. Are they supposed to be similar in context? Well, that would be true if what you were claiming to be true was actually fucking true. True about the other one. But it's not. Okay, second of all, what the fuck? What in the actual fuck is Final Fantasy 13 Versus? You never explain what it is. You never explain how this would ever play out in the first place. You just randomly throw this in and say he's trying to make this game like that. What proof do you even have that he's trying to? You don't fucking bring any up. You just... Oh my fucking god. More importantly, what the fuck does your random video clip have to do with Final Fantasy Strangers in Paradise being convoluted? You literally just play a clip of a dude saying bullshit, plays music, and him and his entire crew walk out into the next scene where they're now outside. That's not an example of convoluted. What the fuck are you talking about? Well, that didn't make any sense. That didn't prove your point. You just look fucking stupid adding that in. Literally, a character just says curse word, plays some music, and him and his friends leave, and now they're outside. That's not an example of convoluted. What the fuck? Okay. Another clip, and then you put another clip of Sora just saying one world is real, the other one is mimicking the real one and isn't actually real but a fake. That's not fucking convoluted. That's very simple to understand. One's real, one's a fake, one's a clone, one's a mimic, whatever the fuck. This isn't examples of convoluted shit. It just shows that you can't comprehend basic fucking concepts. Like, what the fuck? Like, what the actual fuck, bro? Also, Kingdom Hearts is not Disney or Final Fantasy. While it takes concepts and even uses the worlds from Disney, it is not Disney or the next Kingdom Hearts game series. It's its own thing that uses these properties as inspiration, if not even part of the worlds, in order to build upon its story. And, of course, I knew it. His own personal opinion, that personal story in the end would end up, being used to affect the ending of this argument, ending of this video. Listen, okay? Your personal opinion should not be used in order to argue something else. What you should use is actual examples or reasoning, basically. Not an appeal to emotions or even authority, basically. Kingdom Hearts is not about Disney. Sure, it uses some Disney characters in Kingdom Hearts 1, and maybe Reaching a Memory technically uses a lot of Disney shit basically, and so in other games use it to a way less extent. But that's because, well, in order to understand why Sora and his friends would fight for the world, you would have to see what would be lost if they didn't. What could be potentially lost if they don't fight for it. You have to understand why they would want to. You have to understand the connection. That's why they have the Disney worlds. If not, it would just be an edgy story about them fighting bad guys that want to take over the world, and they're defending a world they wouldn't give a shit about. That's why they have the Disney sections in, basically. Also, another out of context screenshot and him randomly bringing up fucking car insurance just because a car was thrown. I don't understand how one can reasonably think about car insurance during an action scene just because a car was thrown. But whatever.
H2. So wildly colorful and stylistic with so much soul, you can really feel the care that was put into lovingly crafting these Disney worlds. And to see them become less and less of a focus is a real shame. Back when I first experienced these games, I always wanted them to focus less on the Disney side of things and go more heavily toward Final Fantasy, as I only really got into Kingdom Hearts in the first place because of my love for Final Fantasy. But seeing what Final Fantasy has become,
Chaos.
and what Kingdom Hearts 4 seems like it's going to turn into, I can't help but think about how wrong my younger self was. Seeing Donald and Goofy at the end of the trailer was a reminder of those better, simpler times. I just wish more of the trailer was able to evoke those same feelings, rather than the literal last 5 seconds of it. And if that isn't a telltale sign of the direction this game is headed, I don't know what is. With that being said, only time will tell if Kingdom Hearts 4 becomes Kingdom Farts 4. Don't forget to like and subscribe, guys, or that's the nickname I'm using for Kingdom Hearts.
Kingdom Hearts is not like Final Fantasy, for the most part, basically. While it has some inspirations, it's not. Kingdom Hearts isn't quote-unquote staggering or like losing its touch like Final Fantasy. What do you mean by what Final Fantasy has become? You haven't shown anything that's shown that Final Fantasy has become bad or anything. You just played a random fucking clip of a dude saying bullshit, playing music, and a transition to the next scene. All the clips that you've shown don't prove that it's become for the fucking worse at all. It doesn't prove your point at all. You haven't proven how Kingdom Hearts has an identity crisis at all. All you've done is make fun of how Sora looks, talk about the trailer not being to your liking, say it reminds you of the Final Fantasy 15 trailer in some way, shape, or form, bring up random points that don't add to your fucking argument. Talk about Cage Free and talk about how you were introduced to this series. And talk about how you yourself have lost your touch with this series, and you want us to understand you, or anyone for that matter, even though, I'll say this from my personal side. I'm not going to say other people can or cannot understand or, agree with you. I'll say it from my perspective. I do not agree with this video at all. You haven't said anything worth any actual evidence. You haven't said anything worth actually even believing that there might be a fucking identity crisis. You haven't proved that there is an identity crisis. Nothing you've shown, stated, or said proves there's an identity crisis. I'm not going to say Kingdom Hearts has good writing, and nor will I say Final Fantasy, but it does not have an identity crisis. It all just seems to be your personal opinion because you don't like that they changed the fucking style to realistic for one fucking world, or you don't like the changes that were that have now been put in place, and now you're trying to think of reasons to fucking hate it. In conclusion, this video did not prove its claim with evidence, its explanations were shit, and its claim might as well just be fucking clickbait. Overall, this was a waste of time. Alright, quick disclaimer before I end this video. Listen, I have nothing against Quik reviews at all as a person. I have nothing against anyone or any videos against anyone that I cover, basically. I attack their arguments, not them themselves, basically. Please do not hate or harass these people, basically. And other than that, I hope that you enjoyed this episode of content. Anyways, I think that I probably won't see you for a long time again, and remember, have a nice day.